Well, to beat the heat, Allison, the best thing to do is this is what I do. Okay, if you can't afford an air conditioner, or if it's too noisy, or if you're really poor as fuck like I am, you take a gym sock and you fill it up with rice, like uncooked, right? Then you sew one end of it shut and then put it in the freezer, and then you give it some time, and whenever on hot days you
Brian.
What? Oh,
well,
the stream.
I think
I'm sorry, we started. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fireside Chat number 43 with our special guest, the Sandre Guy. I'm your host, Brian, and I'm here with Allison, Sandre, and my nice, cool sock on my neck. So...
No. I say nothing. I'm not.
It is good. Look,
Brian, may I ask where the sock on your body is placed?
It's on my neck.
No. It's
wrapped
unspecified
around.
What neck?
I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it like a scarf.
Okay.
Do with that what you will.
Should I inform that? Okay, all right. So we still have about 8 hours on this current leg of the fundraiser. So please go to www.feedthebadger.com. Every little bit helps. So even if it's just $5, it's good. Do it. And maybe we'll explain what the sock is for. All right, take it away, Brian.
All right. So first, thank you, Sandre, for taking the time to come on the show. And
well, I mean, you know me. I can be an asshole, but sometimes I actually have to help out. The mentally challenged. It's fine. It's really fine.
Good. Tell us, Sandre, why did you decide to make YouTube videos? I just have to know. What made you decide to do that?
Well, it's a myriad of reasons right now, but I mean, why I started. Basically, my channel is like 8 years old now, and the very first videos I made was essentially just about atheism, and I just came to grips with my non-belief in this unprovable idea of a sky daddy and so on. Mm-hmm. And I guess for the last 4 years I've actually on a regular basis been making content as the Sandre Guy, and then I've sort of reached out to other areas as well. My videos now are in general just about fighting dogma, regardless of its shape, if it's religious or just political in nature. That doesn't really matter, or just good old-fashioned stupidity. I like to tear into that too.
Yeah, I noticed, now that you mention that, a lot of people who make what we call anti-feminist, anti-social justice warrior content, a lot of them started off doing atheist content. Have you noticed that? I've noticed that that a lot of people they started off and they were probably most of them liberals, and they started out talking about atheism and the problems with religious dogma and fighting against creationists and people who believe that the earth is 6,000 years old and so on. And now they have, it's not that they've abandoned it, but they just don't find that it's important. And they spend a lot more time talking about things like feminism and crazy social justice stuff. Have you also noticed that?
What I've noticed is, I think there's a lot to what you just said. There does seem to be a correlation, absolutely, between simply non-belief and just skepticism in general. Now, of course, just being an atheist doesn't make you rational in any way. I mean, Atheism Plus and those kinds of movements are proof of this, of course, but it does, however, mean that there is. I do think the odds of you being a rational person is higher if you already have expressed skepticism towards religion. I do think so.
Yeah, and you mentioned Atheism Plus. I also think of people like Elise Green, who is also an atheist, and I think that there is a part where it comes from what I noticed, that there are people who they embrace or they discover rationally, just by sort of thinking it through, atheism seems to them to be practical, or more of a pragmatic, where they landed. And then there are people who they get there because they are really angry. They find out that they feel betrayed. They feel like they've been lied to most of their lives. They suffered, some of the social problems with extremely religious and authoritarian sort of communities and cultures. And they go into atheism not out of a sense of this is what makes sense, but rather this is something I like because it lets me go after the people that have made me feel like shit for a long time, like Lacey Green, who was basically, she grew up Mormon, I believe, and probably very sexually repressed. And when she found out that it was all bullshit, she suddenly wanted to talk about sex all the time, and that was basically how her channel started out. So.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, not most, of course, it's a minority, and I think it's important to keep that in mind. But yeah, there's definitely this clique of so-called atheists. I would, however, argue that perhaps they've simply just replaced religion with an ideology in certain cases. But they seem to just be atheists out of the fact that. As some form of vengeance against what they perceive to be bullshit and what is bullshit. But it's not because, they didn't become atheists because they engaged in some kind of rational process. These people usually know nothing about the Socratic method or any kind of basic process of logic. Syllogisms, for instance, they usually have no idea what you're talking about when you try to talk to these people about that. But they seem to really have come into atheism as more of a emotional response rather than a logical response. And sure, as an atheist, I guess in a way it's better than being religious because you're against religious indoctrination, for instance. But you may still be very dangerous in other ways because you may, fill that void that previously was filled by the religion with a really toxic ideology such as feminism. Like
a different religion? Like what essentially you're just swapping one religion for another religion.
Well, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
I would say, however, that, when you go down to the nitty-gritty of it, I wouldn't say that feminism is perhaps as idiotic as believing in a talking snake, but it's pretty damn stupid still.
I'd actually disagree with that, because the problem with feminism is, while religious belief can be seen as metaphorical, feminism purports to actually describe reality, and in such it has almost a privileged position in informing politics and social policy. At this point, because of the separation of church and state, private belief doesn't necessarily translate into this kind of expectation that everyone believe in the talking snake, or that the talking snake should rule. But the crap that comes out of feminism has a patina of scientific accuracy because of the science, the rubber stamping by the scientific community, and that itself makes it more, gives it more authority, because it's seen as the reasonable response, like the reasonable position to hold. And it can be more intractable to argue against. You can't make people believe in the talking snake. The talking snake is a metaphor for some other aspect of being human. Versus, women were always oppressed, throughout all of history, but forever by men. And the both concepts are actually completely unscientific.
Oh yeah, no, they absolutely are. And actually, I would say that even though I don't think that feminism, as a basic concept, is quite as stupid, but I would, however, say, and I would agree with you, that it is perhaps far more dangerous, because it's like you say. Any person who simply has been, not been indoctrinated into something, they will be able to tell that, a talking snake, no, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. Get this shit away from me. But since people, and especially men, have an evolutionary drive to protect the female gender, women, there is a natural inclination to sort of believe the narrative of historical oppression against women. So yeah, I would agree with you that it is far more potent and dangerous than the belief in a talking snake.
Well,
it's
I mean,
it's the fear of the trouser snake.
Yeah, the one-eyed snake.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. Thanks, Brian.
Sorry.
Speaking of the one night, how's the soccer with rice in doing?
It's very cool. It's like a brand new pillow.
It's very soothing.
Yeah.
It's very soothing. All right, in the heat. No, it's just the thing with feminism is it's almost like I mean, when you look at religious belief, it's metaphorical. I mean, and I have obviously a very different approach to religion than you do, Sandre Guy. I don't actually see it as quite as toxic as a lot of atheists do. And in fact, I'm not atheist. I don't really have a religion, though. Nor would I really want to talk about my personal beliefs. But however, really I see that.
Deist, I would guess.
Sorry, what?
A deist.
I don't even know if I would venture to, if there was a deity, I wouldn't. I think that it's probably just completely unknowable. So there's no point conjecturizing on its potential qualities. So even conjecturizing that it has its own consciousness seems sketchy at best. So
sounds rational.
But regardless, when I look at religion, there is a quality to it that it has a wisdom to it in terms of not necessarily dealing with reality, but dealing with the reality of being a species that is aware of its own death and managing that without everyone going into like running around with their hair on fire. So it's more like it's not necessarily about where it works is not where it describes reality, but helps people get through their own existence as finite beings.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I agree with you because I mean, what is the greatest motivator to get people to believe in a deity? Well, it's the prospect of their existence dying. I mean, like you dying. How many people haven't converted to some kind of religion to quote unquote save their soul, but before they die? Well, because. I mean, I mean, death is a very good motivator to believe in any religion, and I do think that yes, to some degree, if one ignores the superstition and the wars and all that, I mean, does religion have good qualities? Well, yeah, of course it does. I mean, it's a collective activity. It's something that brings people together, and considering our history, and it's very recent that we've actually had any kind of actual security as individuals in a society. It's I mean, for most of human history, I guess it became natural to turn to religion as a sense of we are one group, we are together, we have this thing in common, and that's how I see it.
Well, there's I think that where religion is really useless is in terms of describing the physical reality. But where I've seen that it seems to have some use is just being a method of dealing with being self-conscious creatures, without totally fucking it up. And the reason why I'm saying that I think maybe religious belief is less stupid than feminism is because it's less hateful. I mean, there is an aspect of us that needs an answer to the question, at least for some of us, needs an answer to the question, what happens next? Whereas feminism is the answer to the question of what happens next is you get oppressed by your brother, your son, your husband. And it's dysfunctional on its basic elemental core. And it's just a lie. Like, it isn't even just stupid, it's a fucking stupid lie. Anyway.
No, I agree, and I think it's very important to note that even though not all of the issues today can be blamed on feminism, a hell of a lot of them can. And
no, I agree with that too. I mean, the thing is that although I will say that feminism on its surface is a stupid belief, and it's also a very bigoted, vicious belief to believe that men would oppress women. Period. That they would do that. I mean, you're talking about a species, or men, you're talking about, according to what I've seen, men have evolved to have a hormonal response to when women cry. So it's like an instinctive response to protect women. And you're saying they are capable of causing harm to women preferentially over themselves. Like, it's just madness. But what I was going to say, and I'm sorry for running right over you, Sandre. You know what? I don't even know what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to...
No, it's fine. It's fine. The thing is, I mean, I think actually another thing to keep in mind is that it's not just, you know, when it comes to certain individuals like Lacey Green or, you know, Kevin Logan. I think he's an atheist. And Steve Shives, these atheists who are incredibly, you know, just incredibly hypocritical in how they will, you know, analyze the shit out of any religious claim. But when it comes to feminism, you know, praise be the holy vagina. They will not question it whatsoever.
And Islam.
and Islam. Yeah. And actually, that's something that I wanted to get into, however, because I've actually noticed I don't really think one can say that we really have a community. I guess you could say the skeptosphere. I sort of prefer that term because I see us more as individuals who are sort of, who have in common that we actually try to analyze things, you know, intellectually, and don't get driven by emotion as much as any opposition. But what I've noticed is that there is this sort of double standard in our sphere too, especially when it comes to Islam. And I mean, Islam is a horrible religion. It really is. It oppresses people to the nth degree. The way they execute people for simply, you know, doing something that is considered haram to us in the Western world, it's very alien. It's not something that should happen whatsoever. But what I've noticed is that these so-called skeptics, and actually Dr. Randerkamp pointed this out very beautifully in one of his videos called The Man Card, and I agree with him completely. The very same people, mind you, who will call out feminists and say that, oh, it's so stupid of you to claim that, you know, 1 in 5 women on college campuses in the U.S. will be raped. Yeah, it's obviously, you know, not true. These very same people will also engage in this very gynocentric and simply not accurate view of how women are treated in these Islamic countries. I mean, one thing you need to keep in mind here is that, yes, women do lack rights there, but, you know, they also don't have as many responsibilities as men do. And that's something that is very much forgotten in this entire discussion. I would actually, I don't want to turn the tables here, but I would actually like your opinion on this too.
Oh yeah, I have a statistic to drop. I was researching the claim that you know, Islam actually treats, and when I got to preface this by saying, the fact that I look at what the claims about Islam rationally does not mean that I think that Islam is necessarily, as it is practiced, particularly by extremists, a good thing. But having said that, when you look at the statistics for child sexual abuse, at least the ones that I've seen, and I don't know what the people who are saying that Islam is so terrible for sexual abuse of women are coming from. When you look at the statistics that have been gathered by 8 organizations from the West, the only statistics I've found have found that girls in Islamic countries are half as likely to be sexually abused as girls in Western countries. However, boys in Islamic countries are twice as likely to be sexually abused as boys in Western cultures. So, I mean, those are the statistics I found. You can argue with those statistics. And, I mean, I recently had a discussion with somebody who I believe considers himself a skeptic, who was asserting, and he actually is from Saudi, actually, I probably shouldn't say that. He is from the Middle East. I think he's been public about where he was from, but he doesn't live there now. And he said to me, he told me about this particular case where a woman received something like 120 lashes or 80 lashes for being in an extramarital affair. And the whole event was a situation where she had gone to see her lover and she was married, and they were in a car in an isolated location because they were trying to hide their adulterous affair, and a bunch of men found them, dragged them out of the car, and raped them both, like the man and the woman. And when the Saudi police found out about this, they gave both the man and the woman 80 lashes for adultery, not for being victims of rape. But I bring this up because the person who was trying to say that Islam is so terrible for women mentioned this case and said, this is a woman who got 80 lashes for being a rape victim. And I was like, okay. And because he was trying to assert that when women get raped, they get punished in Saudi Arabia for being raped.
That's simply not true.
Yeah, that not for being adulterous, but for being raped. So he was saying that this woman got punished for being raped, and that men are not punished for being raped at all. And I had going back and forth, and I said, well, what is the situation for men? And what is the situation for men? How are they treated? Are they punished for having been raped? And he was like, no, men are never punished for having been raped. And if a man charges a woman with rape, she gets punished. But if a woman charges a man with rape, she gets punished too. And I was like, oh, that sounds so strange. So I looked up his case that he used to prove it, and one, he didn't even know there was a male victim because he had never inspected that case. He had never researched that case enough to be aware of it.
No.
And yeah, he never knew that there was a male victim who got exactly the same punishment, except I believe that initially they both got 60 lashes for being in an adulterous affair, and then the woman got an increase in the number of lashes for lying to the police about it, whereas the man I don't think he ever lied to the police about it. And he was also increased in the number of lashes, even though what she was charged with was lying to the police and adultery, which is a crime in Saudi Arabia, and what he was charged with was only adultery. They got equivalent numbers of lashes. And I'm like, this is completely different than what you were saying. And you completely removed the fact that there was a male victim in all this. And you don't see that that's the exact problem that I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's in every single one of these cases where people are like, oh my God, Sandre, how can you say that? And then they send me this link to a story, and yeah, it's like you described. There's also a male victim, or it turns out that the statistics actually show that far more male victims are suffering from these hideous forms of punishment under Sharia. And I mean, let's just take a very simple example before we move on. And I just want to get this over with. I actually had this discussion not too long ago with someone over how women are treated in these Islamic countries and so on. And again, to anyone who's listening, yes, women lack rights. It's horrible, but that also means that men have a lot of responsibility to take care of women, because they can't do things on their own to the extent that men can do. And that's something that people forget, and it pisses me off. It really does.
And just to interject really briefly, when you say that men have responsibilities, those responsibilities also come from with risks that lead to men dying in the Middle East 3 times more often violently than women.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course, but people never talk about this. It's always this very gynocentric viewpoint. And yeah, no, I wanted to take this example, though, because let's take something that is very classic when talking to these individuals, and it's, driving a car. And it's often, oh, well, Sandre, they can't drive a car. Oh my God, it's horrible. Yeah, I agree. It's fucking horrible. They should be able to drive a fucking car. I agree with you. But what you seem to forget is that the woman needs a man to drive her. And if the men in her family or her acquaintances say no, that is actually not okay according to the state in these countries. No, a man has to drive her where she wants to go. Do you think the man likes to drive around a woman like she's a fucking child everywhere? I don't think so. But he has to. So yeah, she can't drive, but the man has no choice. He has to drive her instead. And it's just this very logical, obvious thing that people keep missing when talking about this. And again, it's due to this gynocentric bias. And, partially I think it's very much biological, but I do think that if we become aware of it, we can sort of, put it aside at least enough to realize that actually it's not, 1-0 here. It's actually 0-0. Both genders are losing here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's been sort of productive. What I think what I wanted to say before, I don't know where is Brian. Are you still around here?
Yeah, I'm right here. Why did something happen?
Carefully.
No, I was actually trying to find. No, there was a couple things. I was trying to find this video I saw of Muslim women that were basically saying that they didn't want they didn't want the things to change because they like things the way they were. They didn't want people to give them the ability to drive because they prefer to be driven around, and there's a few reasons. One is because they like being serviced, and another was because it lets them they know where their husband is at all times. So I was trying to find that video. The other thing I was going to say is what is interesting about the fact that when you make and we've talked about this on the show, on other shows before, when you want to criticize a culture that might be bad for both men and women, it actually doesn't serve you as well as just saying it's bad for women. You have to do that to get more people to respond. So if I say, and I mean, you would think that logically it would make sense that saying that this religion is bad for everybody, this ideology is bad for everybody, men, women, children, that should get people saying, well, man, we should probably reform it or look at it or whatever, discuss it. But that doesn't work as effectively as saying this is specifically bad for women. And it's not bad for men, which is the often what the assertion is. Never mind that it's really bad for gay men, and I don't even know what's going on with trans men, and yeah. So, but anyway, Sandre, you were going to say.
No, it's just funny because you have these usually it's conservatives and they're trying to clean up their image when it comes to gay men, especially because conservatives in general hasn't had the best history when it comes to gay men, but you have people like Milo Yiannopoulos, who is right wing, and he's a sign that the right is actually trying to embrace gayness like the left did a long time ago, and I just think it's very ironic, though, that they're trying to do this, apparently, but at the same time, they will prefer to talk about the women's in Saudi Arabia, for instance, but don't really care much about all the gay men who are fucking executed, just for being gay. So, yeah, conservatives, if you don't want to be complete fucking hypocrites, how about you start talking about the gay men? So yeah, I just wanted to get that out of my system.
No, that's good. I will say that recently I saw an article that was written by a relatively large news source, and I can't remember the name of it, unfortunately, but it did acknowledge what happened with Boko Haram and the boys. So, I mean, granted, it's like, 3 years too late or something, but 2 years too late?
Yay!
But but they are talking about the boys now, so I guess post-mortem...
baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps, exactly. So, anyway, what? Oh, you know what? So, what do you think, Sandre, about MRAs?
Well, I don't like to
be brutal. I know that I'm not saying do you call yourself one or anything like that, because we don't really care, but.
No. I just want to clarify this, actually, because in a way I do, but I don't like the term MRA because it can very easily be misconstrued because it means men's rights activist, and I prefer MHRA, men's human rights activist, because it's much harder to misconstrue that, because in the name it becomes clear that I'm not advocating for any special rights just because someone has a fucking Y chromosome. I'm simply, for enforcing just natural human rights to be actually lived up to for people with Y chromosomes, because, again, like a lot of people seem to want to conveniently forget, it's usually the guys who get the short end of the stick, regardless. But yeah, no, that's what I would call myself, an MHRA. I prefer that term.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't I'm going to keep with men's rights advocate, Just simply because when I call myself a women's rights advocate, nobody says, "Oh my God, are you for supremacy?" You know, and there's that contradiction and hypocrisy. This is my own choice, though. I'm not convincing you of it. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything, though, or what they should call themselves. In fact, I call myself a men's rights activist because of an act of men's rights activism or men's rights advocacy. But I think until that is resolved, and if you call yourself a men's rights activist, it's nobody bats an eye any more than you call yourself a women's rights activist. Then I'll be happy. And I'll think and then I'll call myself nothing. I'll call myself a Doge rights activist, maybe.
That's right.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
Gotta close the treat gap. Okay, and Sandre, here's another one. Oh, these might get us letters, but what are your thoughts on MGTOW?
Oh yeah. Oh, this topic. Oh God, I have a history with this one. Look, I don't use the term MGTOW. I mean, the way I see it, MGTOW is a verb. It's something you do.
Yeah.
It's not really something I see as, you know, an identity. I don't think I think it's kind of ridiculous when people try to make it this, you know, identity. And I think it sort of goes against the whole purpose of MGTOW too, because if you really go your own way, why do you want to form a community around this particular way? And why do you want to, you know, also another thing I've noticed is MGTOWism is what I would like to call it. It's supposed to be just essentially men just doing whatever the fuck they want, and you know, as long as they have chosen it, you know, on the basis that is what they truly want, you know, really any kind of man should be, you know, accepted as a MGTOW if he declares himself as one. But what I've noticed is that, again, there's a bit of a double standard here. You have a lot of MGTOWs who simply flat out refuse to admit, you know, married men as MGTOWs, and I cannot for the life of me understand the logic behind that one, because if a man knows the risks of being married and knows that, you know, this woman essentially has a financial gun to his head, like was it Janet Bloomfield who coined that term essentially?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I like her spunk. Anyway, but yeah, no. If a man is aware of this, but he trusts the woman in enough to actually marry her, to sign a deal with the state, and he has chosen to do this because he wants to, then technically he is a MGTOW. I mean, there's no way to deny that logic, and still you have these MGTOWists, I guess you could call them, who seem to just be like perpetual children, like, no, you can't be a MGTOW. MGTOW is supposed to be not married. You know, I just can't stand that shit, if I'm going to be honest. Most MGTOWs, though, most people that I know who are MGTOW, they're just fine. You know, they're just ordinary guys, just doing whatever because they want to, and I think that's a very healthy mentality as a man today. I mean, as long as you're aware of the risks that exist in society, as a man, and you know, choose to take risks on your own terms, I'm fine with that. I really am. But like any label, I guess you will always have that you know, minority who will act like children. I don't know.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, it's just it's an action, as you say. I think that what happened in terms of how a community was formed was there were a few prominent guys that were talking about it, and they were speaking to their audience about their ideas, and then people started to you know, take a really big interest in it, and then all of a sudden there were rules and, you know, stuff like that. But I think most people who are MGTOW are not talking about being MGTOW. They're just doing the thing. And you don't really see any of their content because they're not doing it. They're just living their life, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's the point. Most MGTOWs are not on YouTube, and you know are the stereotypical MGTOW at this point. You know, just bitching about women in general, because those guys do exist, and I think it's important for MGTOWs to point these guys out actually and call them out on this, because otherwise you're gonna have a huge image problem. I'm just gonna put that out there. You need to deal with those guys, but yeah, no, most MGTOWs, like I told you, are just fine with me. I mean, it's like, you know, if you really do things on your own terms, I don't give a fuck. You know, good on you. I wanna have a drink with you. If that's the case.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me see. So we were going to look at the Anita Sarkeesian video, but I think that I don't think we need to. I think we do at some point though.
Yeah,
about body positivity. Yeah. But what do you you were going to say something about Anita before we started the show, and we asked that we wait until the show. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay,
I do.
okay.
As you might be aware, I have a very special brain. It seems to be capable of just randomizing jokes out of thin air, and then remembering them in a special compartment. I don't know how I do it, but yeah, I remember. Basically, the joke was it takes almost as long to actually watch Anita's content due to all the times you have to pause and facepalm as it takes to actually wait for the content to come out.
Yeah.
Oh my! Oh, you know what? I think that she's as much as I detest her politics or her alleged politics, she's definitely got a great business model. As I said in one of the videos that I did recently, it's like a combination of financial domination and male power fantasy that, you know, she's excellent, like excellent head on her shoulders for business. I'm amazed that well, I'm not amazed that men buy it. I'm just like, why would you buy this? But yeah, it's flattering. Like she believes that men control everything, and make everything problematic. Like men are the most powerful villains in all of human history, or well, duh. At the same time as they need to give her these villains who hate her utterly and would kill her on sight, or you know, that's a little bit of her hyperbole, but they hate her utterly and would harass her on sight, will still give her money because, you know, you guys are so awful, you need to pay me money, and you'll do it because you're so awful. You don't care about women, you just want to hurt women, so give me money because you hurt me, men, and I'm a woman.
Nothing soothes a cognitive dissonance quite like a dollar bill.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just amazed that people don't like it's so bizarre, because she can go ahead, she can turn around and say that the wall of piquant internet criticism that she received is more indicative of the community than the $150,000 she received to make her feel better for it. You know, and it's like it's just so bizarre because people will buy into this. And
I mean, of course. I mean, you're always going to have, you know, these very gullible idiots. They're always going to exist. And actually, I would say that maybe 30% of my content is just tearing into those idiots. But I mean, the difference, though, I would say nowadays compared to back in the old days, you would have like these snake oil salesmen who would travel around on the prairie and essentially just sell shit that didn't fucking work. And, you know, maybe they would reach, you know, one or two village idiots who would actually buy the crap. But today, with the internet, it's very, very easy to essentially just take the equivalent of a moth lamp, and just like moths to the fucking lamp, you will have these idiots collecting in one huge pool, where you can essentially just drain their fucking money. And yeah, I agree. It's fucking ridiculous. These men, I would call them psychologically castrated men, because yeah, it's just you're gonna listen to someone call you, essentially a milder version of Hitler, or maybe even Hitler, while giving this person money. It's just astounding to me.
This is the really funny thing. We have been criticized for essentially having Patreons, doing fundraisers, and people have made accusations that Alice is pocketing the money and she's just like using people.
I totally am.
Yeah,
I am.
But this is the thing that I find hilarious about it. If Allison wanted to get rich quick, and she wanted to swindle everyone out of their money to create a project that she's actually never going to finish, and she wants to have a lot of money to make sure that gets done, men's rights is probably that is the dumbest way to do that. It's like that is the least wise business model to go to and platform to launch from, because you are very rarely going to make that much money. If Allison really wanted to do it, she would go under a new anonymous name and make a feminist oriented fundraiser for something. She will get 10, 20 times the amount of money that she needs. And she can lie to people. She can lie and not deliver on it, and then do another fundraiser and get the same amount of money, and she'll get to do speaking engagements at colleges for $5,000 each, like Anita does, like Lori Penny does. She can go to the UN. She can get on the Colbert Report, be on TV. The men's rights platform is not a profitable platform. It's an incredibly risky platform that, most people are going to find a joke. So, and I'm not saying this to necessarily defend Allison, because she doesn't need me to do that. But I am using it to point out how how committed people get to these con artists. And it's funny because being a woman is actually more helpful, because I'll also add this on. When Anita started her Feminist Frequency series, Jonathan McIntosh was on board from day one. He was probably the person that came up with the idea and wrote her scripted pieces, because everything Anita does is scripted, which is very likely that he was the one that was very involved. There's a lot of speculation around it. I don't know for sure, but that's just my guess, okay? So Jonathan McIntosh essentially helped Anita make the $200,000 for the videos she never delivered on. And he's involved with helping her do the next series, which is the one about women in history. When Jonathan McIntosh himself tried to make his own series, which is the Pop Culture Detective Agency, he has not raised nearly as much money as she has, even though he makes basically the same content. I think it's got to do with the fact that he's a man, because they're both liars, and so that's the funny thing. But I think Allison...
of course, and I'd like to add, though, that it's pretty obvious that he actually wrote her content, because it's if you actually analyze the things she says, it's so feminine that only someone as castrated as him could possibly have written it.
Plus, they basically make the same tweets. Like, there were people who you could look at their tweets when they talked about there was a mass shooting, and Anita, the bodies weren't even cold yet, and Anita made a tweet about toxic masculinity and how that was responsible for the shooting. And Jonathan McIntosh made a tweet that was basically the same thing, word for word. And so it's like, he's clearly writing her material. And he's
or she's writing him.
Or she's writing his, but I have a feeling he's the one that's doing it.
Yeah.
I've listened to his voice. There's hardly any bass in it whatsoever. So it's very much possible that he's a hand puppet. Just putting that out there.
Okay, I shouldn't. Okay, it's just fun. Hand puppets are funny. Pups are funny.
Muppets are funny.
Muppets are funny. Muppets are just inherently funny.
Yeah.
That's possibly the most elaborate.
It ain't easy being green.
No.
But
well, just to explain the difference, it's like, if you want to make money, if you want to turn people's brains off, you use something that is like, the thing with women's issues is, because we have such an instinctive emotional response to women in danger, our brains turn off. As soon as we start mentioning how men are also having a problem with this thing, then our brains turn back on. We move from being irrationally motivated to do anything, including throw money. And I don't even know how throwing money at Anita helps women. But whatever, we are rationally motivated to throw money at Anita because it could possibly maybe help women. But when we add Ben to the equation, when we start talking about a phenomenon, like something like, okay, let's take rape. If we say, okay, well, there's a significant portion of rape victims who are men, possibly even half, immediately people's brains either turn off, the emotional aspect of their brains turns off, and they no longer want to give money to help the situation, or the emotional aspects of their brains keep on, and they attack you like a rabid, like a rabid rat in a sack. They just go after the eyes, and it's never, men's rights is never going to be something that's just gonna, like, people are just gonna give money, throw money at, and no men's rights fundraiser that I've ever seen has ever gotten more or much more than it asked for, and I think it's because of that. It's because when you talk about men's rights, you turn people's mental centers back on, and they become more rational about what they're doing. So if you ask for 3,000 or 30,000 to do X thing, they give you exactly 30,000, because they're not giving you money for an irrational feeling of wanting to protect women. They're just giving you money for a rational plan to do something, to do X. And so it's never going to be a moneymaker like that. Never.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. However, one thing I've noticed, though, is there does seem to be, though, a sort of awakening when it comes to men's issues. And, again, evolutionarily speaking, people are never going to, care as much about, men's needs as women's. It's just not going to happen. But I do think that if we simply just get rid of a lot of this manufactured indifference or downright hatred of masculinity, people will at least care enough to actually deal with male issues and then try to keep men from going back to this very bad state that they're in right now. And I do think that much, at least simply because people will eventually realize just how important men are to keep society running. So yeah, I see that you have to go now, Alison, and it's been fun talking to you.
Yeah, I have to go deal with the lawyer and then talk to.
That's all right.
Somebody who's helping me create a charity
we can wrap
foundation.
it up. I think that this was a good conversation, Sandre. Maybe what we can do is we can bring you back on next week sometime, and we can do the Anita video if you want. I don't know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would love that.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks, Alison. You want to say anything to take us out, or we got how many hours left?
How many? Oh, we got like 5 hours left on the fundraiser. At least this stage. I might extend it. I might want to just have it be over with. Whatever the amount we get. But anyway, if you want to throw some shekels in the hat, the final hours, www.feedthebadger.com. Let's get this thing done. And thank you for coming on, Sandre Guy.
Yeah, and also I put a link to Sandre's YouTube channel in the low bar. He most recently did an interview with Internet Aristocrat, which I'm kind of flabbergasted that you scored that guy, but yeah, congrats on that. That was pretty fucking sweet.
Well, I mean, look, you know me. Again, awesome people. They're just attracted to me. It's nothing.
Yeah, I got it. How did you do it though? How many dicks? How many dicks?
No, honestly, I just asked the guy.
How many licks did it take to get to the center of that Tootsie Roll pop?
No. Honestly, I just asked the guy. He took a look at my content, and obviously he felt, okay, this guy seems like a good interviewer.
Yeah. No, cool.
Increasing in the stream.
I would like to. I think I'm gonna reach out to him too. I never saw him as the type, but then I saw him on your channel, and I was like, oh, I guess he is open to that. Anyway,
let's just hope that he's a dog person.
Yeah, I do hope. I think he is. He's from Minnesota or something. I think. Anyway, all right. Well, I want to thank you, Sandre. Thanks, Alison, and thank you guys for coming on the Fireside Chat this week. And we'll see you guys next time. Whenever the fuck I decide to make another video.